You didn't find this video. It found you, and that terrifies you more than you're willing to admit, because somewhere in your bones you know that videos like this don't appear randomly. They show up when the structure of your life is already collapsing, when the person you've been pretending to be can no longer hold the weight of the lie. Carl Gustav Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, but that word sanitizes what's really happening. Your psyche is screaming, and it's using everything at its disposal to wake you up. This isn't about algorithms or luck. It's about desperation. Not the algorithm's desperation. Yours. You've been ignoring the signs for months, maybe years. The dreams that leave you sweating at 3 a.m. The panic that grips your chest in parking lots. The way you stare at your life and feel absolutely nothing. You thought it would pass. You thought if you worked harder, loved better, smiled wider, the emptiness would fill itself. It didn't. And now you're here, watching a stranger talk about Carl Jung while your real life waits in the other room, demanding an answer you don't have. Here's what Jung discovered that no one wants to hear. The psyche will destroy everything you've built before it lets you die unconscious. Your anxiety isn't a disorder. Your depression isn't a chemical imbalance. Your exhaustion isn't burnout. They're assassination attempts. Your soul is trying to murder the false self you've been inhabiting. And it won't stop until you're either awake or completely broken. Most people choose broken, because broken still feels familiar. But you click this video, which means some part of you, however small, is tired of dying slowly. Jung worked with patients who sat across from him, successful and shattered. They'd done everything right, married the right person, built the right career, said the right things, and they wanted to die. Not because life was hard, but because the life they were living wasn't theirs. He called it living the unlived life, a disease that kills you from the inside while leaving your body perfectly intact. And when the psyche realizes you're not listening to whispers, it starts shouting. It sends you content like this, people who speak your secret language, moments that feel impossibly timed. You think it's coincidence. Jung knew better. The unconscious has one job: wake you up before it's too late, and it will use everything. Pain, symbols, strangers on the internet, even this exact moment. So here's the truth you already know but are afraid to name. Your life has reached its expiration date. Not your biological life, your psychological one. The story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you want has run out of space, and your psyche is making sure you can't ignore it anymore. This video isn't here to comfort you. It's here to confirm what you've been feeling but couldn't articulate. You're not broken, you're not weak, you're not going crazy. You're just finally awake enough to see that the person you've been playing is someone else's script. And the real question isn't why you're in pain. It's what you're going to do now, that you can't unknow it. You've been taught that something is wrong with you, that normal people don't feel this way, that healthy people adapt, that strong people push through. And you've tried. God knows you've tried. You optimized your morning routine. You practiced gratitude, you set boundaries, you went to therapy, you read the books, you did the work, and still every morning you wake up to the same hollow feeling, like you're watching your life happen to someone else. This is what Jung meant when he said the psyche refuses to continue pretending. It's not a mood, it's not a phase, it's a full system rejection of the life you're living. Your body is trying to tell you something your mind refuses to hear. You are living at a frequency that is killing you. Not dramatically, not visibly, just slowly, efficiently, completely. The exhaustion isn't from doing too much, it's from being someone you're not. Every single day without rest. The anxiety isn't from external threat, it's your soul's panic response to a life that has become a slow-motion suicide. The numbness isn't depression, it's protective dissociation from a reality your psyche has deemed unlivable. Jung saw this pattern repeat in every patient who walked through his door. Successful lawyers who couldn't get out of bed, devoted mothers who fantasized about disappearing, respected professionals who stared at their office walls and felt nothing but rage. He called it psychic death, the phenomenon of being biologically alive while psychologically extinct. And here's what made Jung dangerous. He didn't try to fix them. He told them the truth. You're not sick, you're imprisoned. And your symptoms are escape attempts. Society has a word for people who question the script: unstable, ungrateful, selfish, lost. Because if you start asking why you're unhappy despite doing everything right, the entire structure becomes suspect. And the structure cannot allow that. So it pathologizes your awakening. It calls your awareness a disorder. It prescribes medication for the part of you that can still feel. But Jung understood something modern psychology desperately tries to avoid. Sometimes the patient isn't sick, the culture is. Sometimes your depression is the only sane response to an insane situation. Sometimes your anxiety is clarity, not confusion. Sometimes your inability to function in the system is because the system itself is broken. And your psyche, that brilliant, relentless force inside you, is doing everything it can to make you see it. The pain you're in right now isn't random, it's strategic. It's engineered to make continuation impossible, to force a choice you've been avoiding. Because as long as you could tolerate the disconnect, you would. As long as you could numb it, manage it, explain it away, you would. But pain is a terrible gift. It won't let you sleep anymore. Jung worked with patients who'd spent decades running from this moment, and he watched what happened when they finally stopped. Some broke, some rebuilt, but none stayed the same. Because once you feel the crack in your reality, you can't unfeel it. Once you see that your life is a performance you never auditioned for, you can't unsee it. Once you know that the person in the mirror is a stranger wearing your face, you can't unknow it. This is the point of no return. And if this video found you, you're already past it, and it's trying to save you at the same time. Jung discovered something that still makes people uncomfortable. The psyche has its own agenda, and that agenda doesn't care about your comfort, your plans, or your carefully constructed life. It cares about truth. And when the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be becomes unbearable, the psyche doesn't negotiate, it attacks. Your insomnia isn't a sleep disorder. It's your psyche refusing to let you rest in a life that's killing you. Your panic attacks aren't chemical imbalances. They're your soul's emergency broadcast system, screaming that you're in danger. Your inability to focus, to care, to feel anything except dread. That's not failure. That's sabotage. The psyche is systematically dismantling everything that keeps you trapped. Jung called this the self-regulation of the psyche, a built-in intelligence that will burn down your entire world if that's what it takes to wake you up. He watched patients lose jobs they hated, relationships that were slowly suffocating them, identities they'd spent decades building. And he didn't try to stop it, because he understood that sometimes destruction is the only path to transformation. The modern world calls this a breakdown. Jung called it a breakthrough. But here's where it gets darker. Your psyche doesn't care if you survive the process. It only cares that you become real. And becoming real requires the death of everything false. Every role you play to earn love. Every mask you wear to stay safe. Every lie you tell yourself to avoid the terror of freedom. All of it has to die. Not metaphorically. Actually. Jung worked with people who lost everything during individuation. Marriages ended, careers imploded, families stopped speaking to them, because the persona you built to please others cannot coexist with the self that wants to live. One of them has to go, and your psyche has already chosen which one. This is why the pain is escalating, why rest doesn't help anymore, why distractions stop working, why even the things that used to bring relief now feel empty. Your psyche is closing every exit. It's forcing you into a corner where the only choice left is transformation or total collapse. And this isn't cruelty. It's love. The most ruthless kind of love. The kind that refuses to let you die unconscious. Jung described patients who spent years in this liminal hell, not sick enough to hospitalize, not well enough to function, just suspended between two lives, unable to go back, terrified to move forward. He called it the night sea journey, the terrifying passage through psychological death before rebirth becomes possible. And most people never make it through. They medicate the symptoms, they white-knuckle back to normal, they convince themselves the crisis was just stress, just hormones, just a bad year. And their psyche goes quiet, not because they healed, but because they chose numbness over transformation. The symptoms don't disappear, they just become background noise. Chronic, manageable, endurable. A life sentence instead of a death sentence. But you're still here, still watching, still listening to a stranger explain why your life is falling apart. Which means you haven't chosen numbness yet. Which means there's still a part of you that would rather die awake than live asleep. And that part, that tiny fragment of consciousness still fighting for your soul, is about to understand something that changes everything. Why this moment, this video, this exact experience isn't random. Why the psyche doesn't just destroy, it also guides. And why the same force that's tearing your life apart is also leaving breadcrumbs towards something you can't yet see. Your psyche is destroying you on one front and saving you on another. And it does this through symbols. Jung spent decades studying this phenomenon, how the unconscious communicates when words fail, how it plants signs in your path when you're ready to see them. Not because the universe is magical, but because your awareness is changing. You've been walking past the same bookstore for years, but today one title stops you cold. You've scrolled past hundreds of videos, but this one makes your hands shake. You've had dozens of conversations that meant nothing, but last Tuesday, a stranger said something that felt like surgery. This is synchronicity, and it's not mystical, it's psychological. When your psyche reaches critical mass, when the old life becomes completely untenable, your perception shifts. You start noticing what was always there but invisible. The unconscious begins magnetizing what you need, not what you want, what you need. And the difference is brutal. You wanted comfort, you got this video. You wanted reassurance, you got confrontation. You wanted to feel better, you got the truth. Jung observed that patients on the edge of transformation become hypersensitive to meaning. Dreams intensify, coincidences multiply, symbols appear everywhere. Not because reality changed, but because they're finally awake enough to read it. The psyche speaks in a language older than words, images, feelings, patterns, moments that hit different. And when you're in crisis, when the false self is dying, this symbolic communication goes into overdrive. Because the unconscious knows something your conscious mind is still resisting. You're out of time. This video isn't an accident. You didn't stumble onto it. Your psyche summoned it. The same way it summoned the dream that's been recurring for months. The same way it summoned the conversation that broke something open. The same way it summoned every moment of clarity you've been trying to ignore. Jung called this the compensatory function of the unconscious. When the ego is heading toward disaster, the unconscious intervenes. It sends warnings, omens, messages encoded in whatever language you'll actually hear. For some people it's art. For others, music. For you, apparently, it's a stranger on YouTube explaining why your life is falling apart. And you know it's real because you feel it in your body. That recognition, that click, that sense of being seen by something that shouldn't be able to see you. This is what happens when the unconscious stops whispering and starts screaming. But here's the part that terrifies people. Symbols don't save you, they just show you the door. You still have to walk through it. And walking through it means doing the thing you've been avoiding. The thing that makes your stomach drop. The thing that would change everything. Jung's patients would have these breakthrough moments. Clear, undeniable realizations about what needed to change. And then they'd spend years doing nothing. Because knowing isn't doing. And doing requires sacrifice. Real sacrifice. Not the Instagram version where you give up sugar and call it transformation. The kind where you give up your entire identity and step into void. The kind where you disappoint people. Where you lose respect, where you become the villain in someone else's story. The kind where you can't go back, even if you wanted to. Your psyche has been leaving breadcrumbs for months, maybe years, and you've been collecting them, studying them, understanding them. But understanding changes nothing. Action does. And action means facing the one thing you've been circling around this entire video. The terrifying, liberating, inevitable truth that no one else can live your life for you. That no breakthrough, no insight, no moment of clarity will do the work of actually changing. That you are alone in this, completely, utterly alone. And the psyche that's been guiding you to this moment is about to step back and make you choose. Consciously, deliberately, irreversibly. This is the part where you want me to give you a solution. A technique, a practice, a way out that doesn't require you to risk everything. But Jung didn't traffic in comfort. He trafficked in reality. And the reality is this: no one is coming to save you. Not your therapist, not your partner, not your parents, not God, not Jung himself if he was still alive. No external force is going to reach into your life and fix what's broken. Because what's broken isn't external, it's you. Not in the way you think. You're not defective. You're not damaged beyond repair. You're just living someone else's life and calling it yours. And until you take full, brutal, uncompromising responsibility for that fact, nothing changes. You've been waiting for permission, for the right moment, for clarity, for courage to appear magically one morning and make the hard thing easy. It won't. Jung was savage about this. He told patients directly, "I cannot individuate for you. No one can. This process is radically individual, which means radically alone. You can have support, you can have guidance, you can have people who understand. But the actual crossing, the moment where you choose your authentic life over your comfortable prison, that's yours, only yours. And no amount of understanding, no perfect insight, no breakthrough realization will do it for you. You have to act, not when you're ready, not when it makes sense, not when everyone approves. Now, while you're still terrified, while you still don't know how it ends, while every rational voice in your head is screaming that you're making a mistake. Because that's the only time transformation happens, in the gap between knowing and certainty. Jung watched patients sit in his office for years, understanding everything, changing nothing. They knew their marriages were dead. They stayed. They knew their careers were soul murder. They clocked in. They knew they were dying by degrees. They kept pretending. Why? Because knowing costs nothing. Action costs everything. And most people would rather understand their prison than risk freedom. The psyche can show you the door. It cannot make you walk through it. It can dismantle your old life. It cannot build your new one. It can destroy the false self. It cannot create the real one. That part is yours. And it requires something the modern world has conditioned out of you, the willingness to be alone with your own soul, to make decisions no one else understands, to risk judgment, to lose approval, to become the person your family doesn't recognize, to choose yourself even when it looks like selfishness, even when it hurts people you love, even when you can't explain it to anyone, including yourself. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not self-improvement, not optimization, not becoming a better version of the acceptable you, becoming who you actually are, even if that person disappoints everyone, even if that person fails, even if that person has to start over completely. The question isn't whether you're ready. You'll never be ready. The question is whether you're tired enough of dying to risk actually living, whether you're willing to trade the known misery for the unknown, whether you can let go of who you've been to discover who you are. And that question doesn't have a comfortable answer. It only has one answer that matters. Yes or no, now or never, life or continued death. And your psyche, having guided you this far, having destroyed everything that needed to die, having left every breadcrumb you refused to follow, is waiting, not patiently, not gently, but absolutely, for you to finally choose. There's a moment in every transformation that Jung never romanticized. The moment where you're standing at the edge, and there's no going back, but you haven't yet moved forward. Where the old life is already dead, but the new one hasn't been born. Where you're suspended in the void between two versions of yourself, and both feel impossible. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psychological crucible where opposites collide and something entirely new emerges. But he never pretended it was beautiful. It's not. It's the loneliest place in human experience. You can't explain to anyone what you're doing because you don't understand it yourself. You just know with sickening certainty that you cannot continue being who you've been. The persona you built is dead, but you don't yet know who you are without it. Your relationships may not survive, your career may implode, your family may turn on you. Because when you stop playing your role, everyone else's script breaks, and they'll blame you for it. They'll call you selfish, reckless, lost, having a breakdown. And maybe you are. But Jung understood that some breakdowns are the only way to break through, that the death of the false self looks like insanity from the outside, that transformation, real transformation, is indistinguishable from destruction until it's complete. His patients lost everything during this crossing: jobs, partners, reputations, the respect of everyone who knew them. And Jung didn't reassure them. He told them the truth. This is the price, and you pay it alone. No one will understand why you're leaving the good job, why you're ending the stable relationship, why you're walking away from everything you worked for. Because from the outside you look crazy. From the inside you're finally sane. And the gap between those two perspectives is where you'll live for a while. Maybe months, maybe years. In the space between who you were and who you're becoming. Without a map, without guarantee, without anyone to witness what you're enduring. This is individuation, not the Instagram version, the Jungian version. The version where you lose everything familiar and discover if there's anything real underneath. Most people can't tolerate it, the uncertainty, the loneliness, the judgment. So they turn back. They reconstruct the persona. They re-enter the comfortable prison. They call it getting better when really it's giving up. And Jung didn't judge them for it. He understood. Because the crossing demands something most people don't have, the willingness to be nothing before you become something. To endure the void. To sit in the unknown. To let the old self die completely before trying to build a new one. This isn't self-help. This isn't empowerment. This isn't finding yourself. This is ego death. And ego death feels like actual death. Your identity dissolves. Your certainties crumble. Everything you thought you knew about who you are becomes suspect. And you have to let it happen. Not fight it. Not manage it. Not control it. Just let it tear you apart. Because on the other side of that dissolution, if you can survive it, is something you've never experienced before. Your actual life. Not the performance. Not the adaptation, not the compromise. The life that was buried under decades of conditioning and fear and other people's expectations. The life you came here to live, but postponed, because living it required this, required you to die first, required you to risk everything, required you to walk into the void without knowing if there's ground on the other side. Jung never promised there was. He just promised that staying where you are is a slower, more certain death. And that some people, very few, would rather risk the void than accept the cage. If you're still here, you're one of them. And what happens next isn't up to me or Jung or anyone else. It's up to you. Right now, in this moment, with this choice. The moment you choose yourself, something shifts in the invisible world. Not metaphorically, mechanically. Your unconscious stops broadcasting one frequency and starts transmitting another. And Jung discovered something about this shift that explains why transformation is so lonely. The people in your life right now, they're resonating with who you've been, the false self, the persona, the compromised version. They're not here by accident. They're here because something in your unconscious recognized something in theirs. Your victim called to their savior. Your shadow called to their shadow. Your wounds matched their weapons. But when you cross over, when you choose the authentic life over the safe one, that resonance breaks. And the people who are attracted to your dysfunction can't stay. Not because they're bad, because the frequency changed. Jung called this the law of resonance, and it's the most disturbing discovery he ever made about human relationships. Every person who's ever entered your life was summoned by your unconscious. The ones who destroyed you were supposed to find you. The ones who saved you arrived exactly on time. Nothing was random. No one was coincidence. Your psyche has been orchestrating every meeting, every betrayal, every loss, pulling specific people into your orbit to show you what you refuse to see about yourself. And once you understand how this works, you can never look at another person the same way again. I break down Jung's law of resonance in the next video. Why you've never met anyone by accident, and why the people who hurt you most were exactly who you needed.